Okay, today I am going to do a little bit of talking about this term heuristics. I'm understanding from your reading responses and your communication with me that this is a term that's it's thrown around a lot in ancient rhetorics for contemporary students, but one for which you don't necessarily all have a really firm grasp. And I completely understand it's a weird term and it's getting used sort of in a few different ways. So my goal with this screencast is to just give you a really basic definition. I'd like to give you some examples because I think heuristics are things that you're probably actually familiar with. You just haven't used this strange word to describe them, and you haven't been using heuristics like the ones that we're using in English 311. And that's my third goal, is to show you what we've already been doing in class and what we will be doing that fits into this category to help you kind of understand more of why we're doing them. Okay, so let's start with a basic definition of heuristics. This is just my own off the cuff definition. Heuristics are tools or formulas. There's some sort of apparatus that help you generate new ideas in order to solve a problem. Okay, so if you haven't gotten this feeling already, you might think of our class as being a problem solving class. You all are being asked to write. You are being asked by me to choose a topic that you're interested in for different writing projects. You'll probably pick several different topics over the course of the semester. And for each writing task, major writing task that I give you, each of your main compositions, I'm kind of setting up a problem or setting up a scenario, and you have to use this rhetorical knowledge that we're practicing in class and we're developing through our new kind of rhetorical terminology to see that that opportunity to write is a problem situation. It's not easy to address audiences on different topics for different purposes. It takes some thought, it takes some effort, it takes knowledge of a rhetorical situation, of a context, of your audience. So we're approaching this whole process as a problem solving process. So in order to help you solve the quote problem of communicating effectively to a particular audience for a particular purpose, given the rhetorical situation and given the topic that you're interested in, heuristics will help you sort of figure out how to do that. They're a tool to help you solve that problem. Now, I think we can think of heuristics in one of two ways. Some people think of heuristics as a shortcut. So if there are just a million things we could say about a given topic, or a lot of different ways that we could approach this situation, the formulaic part of a heuristic is that it kind of narrows down all the questions we might ask, and it makes you ask just a specific set of questions. So in that way, it's a shortcut. It can help kind of streamline your thinking. But more often than not, these tools or formulas, they're not meant to just kind of deliver a specific right answer to you. They're not tools that give you on the first try just the perfect answer. They're formulas that help you generate new ideas, and this term generate is really important here. Heuristics, we use heuristics because they help us discover something. And that's what the term heuristic means in the ancient Greek. It means it's linked to the notion of discovery. So if you can think about discovery in the ways that we think about discovery in other contexts, a scientific discovery, a discovery of a land in hundreds and thousands of years ago, explorers discovering a new part of the world. Any of the ways we can think of discovery, of which there are many, those are not easy tasks. Discovery is not something that just kind of falls into your lap. It's something that you have to put effort in order to discover something. So heuristics are formulas or tools or lists of questions that help us hopefully generate something that feels like a eureka moment, a moment of aha, I got it. Okay, so if you're trying to solve a problem and the problem is not self-evident, then you need to sort of think in a rigorous manner in order to try to solve the problem. And you hopefully hit upon something that really helps you do that. So Again, eureka moments are not something that just come every day. They're something that you have to put a lot of effort into in order to kind of hit the eureka moment. Okay, so that hopefully just gives you sort of a general idea of kind of conceptually what heuristics are all about. But let's talk in more specific manner about what they look like. Here is a very basic heuristic that you should all be somewhat familiar with. If you're a journalist, a good way to do journalism, at least the basic way, is to say, okay, if I'm reporting on something and I don't know how to kind of wrap my head around how to report it, where to get started, a lot of journalists will start by asking these most very basic questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how. So these questions, this list of questions, works as a heuristic. So when a journalist starts to investigate a situation or figure out what they're going to report on given a particular story, they don't just have to start pulling from the air. They can use this heuristic and go through these specific questions in a very systematic way: who, what, when, where, why, and how. That is one of the shortcut methods. So it kind of gives them a model or a formula or an apparatus to get their head wrapped around everything related to what they should include in their story. And probably through the process of asking all of these questions and answering them, they'll hit upon sort of the most important pieces of the story that they need to tell, and it will start to come together for them. So that's a heuristic that you should all kind of have some sense of. So you can see that heuristics are things that are just kind of out in the world, and they're not only something that we use in a advanced writing class. Now I want to call your attention to page 43 of the book. On page 43, the second full paragraph on that page is there's a discussion. This is in Ancient Rhetoric for Contemporary Students. Crowley and Haughey say that they're talking about Facebook groups and this campaign that is related to breast cancer. That is a concept that comes up. This is in chapter 2 of the book, the chapter on Kairos. So they say that a list of interested communities can serve as a heuristic for understanding what's going on with this campaign, and thinking about it in terms of Kairos, which is the topic of the chapter. That sentence is the first sentence in that paragraph if you're looking. So how does a list of communities serve as a heuristic? Okay, here's how. If you're trying to understand something that's a phenomenon that's happening on Facebook or wherever, one way to go about thinking through what might be at stake is to make a list of all the stakeholders, all the people who are involved directly or indirectly with that phenomenon or that event or whatever it is, and go systematically through and kind of approach what that event might look like from their perspective. So Crowley and Haughey say that Facebook users who participate explicitly in this campaign, this breast cancer campaign, are one group. So they can ask, what do we understand about this event from their perspective? They're the people who, participated in this campaign. What does it mean from the perspective of members of the Facebook board of directors? Well, the board of directors might not even know about this campaign, but we can use that question as a heuristic to kind of think from a different perspective, from a new perspective. Another community that they say are people who might not be on Facebook, but who have experienced breast cancer. Now, this is going to make more sense if you go back and kind of refresh your memory of what the larger framework for this campaign and why it was problematic. But nevertheless, that list of communities, making that list, making your own heuristic list of all the people who might be involved with a particular event or a particular topic or a particular issue, and then very systematically going through and trying to say what stake does this group or does this person have in this particular issue, can be a great way to understand the issue better and understand how you might approach talking about the issue or writing about the issue in a more well-informed and fuller way. You might, along the way of working through that heuristic, come across your own eureka moment. Okay, what are the heuristics that we're using in English 311? Well, the first one is the progymnosmata. Now, it's the progymnosmata does not help us explicitly with our problem-solving goals for our compositions because we're not asking you to do them with your particular composition issue or topic in mind. But what the problem that they're solving is they're helping you experiment with different types and places of argument. How are the ways that we can go about thinking, explaining, and just talking about things that are interesting, and that's the goal. So they feel formulaic, and they feel like they're asking you to kind of go through a series of really specific steps that don't necessarily fit together because they're just helping you kind of come across that aha moment where you are writing something that you've been asked to write that you would never otherwise write, like, praising the virtues of someone who gives money to charity. Why would you be writing about that any other time or for any other reason? You probably wouldn't. But by forcing you to go through this activity and this exercise, you might find a way of expressing yourself, or you might realize something that you didn't realize before. So it's not perfect and tidy, and it doesn't transfer the outcome in a really explicit way to maybe your compositions, but it's a valuable exercise nonetheless. The other thing that does transfer a little bit more fluidly to kind of our compositions for the class for 311 are our invention exercises. So the goal here is to explore your composition topic in a more rigorous way than you would probably otherwise to find out what you might discover. So that's why, the first invention that I asked you to do, you were kind of writing. One of the questions I think asked you to talk about where you position yourself and your affiliations. Is that something that you need to address in your composition? No. But it might, as a process of answering that question, you might start to make connections about something that is relevant to your topic. So kairos is a concept that is discussed in our textbook as a concept, but then that is also a concept that then the authors say you can use the concept of kairos to ask very specific questions as heuristics. So a lot of you have said, I get the beginning of a chapter in this textbook, but by the second half, I don't understand what's going on. It's because the first half is just the concept, and you're getting that. Commonplace is a concept, kairos is a concept, stasis is a concept. But the authors are giving us the translation of that concept into a set of heuristic questions. And those look and feel just a little bit different. So those invention exercises that we'll continue to do will come from the second half of those chapters, where we're kind of allowing the questions that Crowley and Haughey have given us based on ancient rhetorical theory about kairos, stasis, commonplaces, to really dig down and explore your topic, whatever your topic is for a given composition, and do some thinking, and maybe have a eureka moment where you come up with a new way of thinking or a way that is relevant or resonant with you. Because remember, part of the problem that we're solving in this class is not only the short-term problem of how do you um, how do you answer this composition question, how do you write to this particular audience for English 311 for your grade, but our larger problem that we're solving is the fact that our rhetoric, our rhetorical production, our public discourse, all the ways we talk to each other are not perfect. They're not perfect, and we can think about them in new and different ways. Our unresolved issues that you're all looking at and working with for your first composition, they're unresolved. No one's been able to kind of bring resolution to particular issues. And so good rhetors, savvy rhetors, are ones who can think of new ways to talk about old controversies that hopefully will result in people coming together and having more agreement. Okay, enough for now. Hopefully that helps.